Hi, if you or your children are suffering because of your relationship with your ex-partner, because it's stressed or strained, or maybe they're just not a nice person, this show is for you. Welcome to the High Conflict Co-Parenting Podcast with Brook Olson and Charlie Jewett. Enjoy another episode now. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the High Conflict Co-Parenting Podcast with Brook Olson. I'm Charlie Jewett, and this is going to be episode 62. And Brook, today we're talking about new partners, which I would assume affects a pretty high percentage of breakups and divorces that involve children, that eventually one or both parties get into another relationship. Unfortunately, sometimes the ending of the first relationship is actually because another one has begun. But we're going to talk about new partners, roles, problems, solutions, kind of the whole gamut, right?
Yeah, we've talked a little bit about this in the past. I wanted to dig down into the conversation a little bit further.
Yep.
And we'll probably even take another swing at this somewhere down the line. There's a lot to discuss in this. And one of the things that I found that happens when new partners come in is oftentimes things that have been calm in the past start to crank up. And there's a lot of reasons for it. And new partners really struggle. And oftentimes when there hasn't been discussion about boundaries and things to come and how to deal with them out front, it creates more trouble for it creates more trouble for the new relationship and the children. So what we want to discuss today is some of the roles that are appropriate and are probably inappropriate for the new partners, and some of the problems that not having appropriate boundaries and roles create, and then talk about some of the solutions to go about and undo some of the things that have already happened, or solutions to problems that haven't presented themselves to get out in front of it.
I mean, this new partner, and I am one, right? As of 3 years ago, I was one in some kids' lives. It's hard to even call them kids now because they're all bigger than me, right? But we have a pretty amazing opportunity to do good. But also, if you run right in day one and try to act like mom or dad, you're going to not be welcomed, right?
Right. The kids are put in a place that there's been a split in the family. They are looking for direction from one or the other one of their parents or both. And we bring a third person in that's giving them direction. Now they're torn in three different directions. Mm-hmm. And they don't need more confusion. They need support. And if the new partners can sit back and allow the process to happen between the two biological parents, it's a lot easier on the kids. And it creates safety in the new relationship. I've seen new partners come in and have the child really navigate to the new partner because they are simply there and they're easy and they're not applying their rules on them, and they're able to take on a different support role for the children. And that makes a big difference for them when that partner does get introduced.
Right. Nice. Okay.
One of the things that we really want to do in the early stages, we're all adults and we want to have adult relationships, and most all of us want to be in a relationship. But when that relationship begins, it's really important to keep the new partner out of the picture for as long as we can. Especially in new divorces or new separations, the kids don't need to hear that mommy's got a new boyfriend or daddy's got a new girlfriend, and that they're taking all of their time with that new partner. One or the other parents is oftentimes going to use that as a bat to beat the other partner up, the old partner up, with the kids to the commentary again that, mommy's got a new boyfriend, she's just not going to be there for you, or that mommy's got a new boyfriend and they've got that in the back of their head, and that's taking time away from them. Mm-hmm. Time that is precious, time that has already been restricted. We had time with mom or dad 100% of the time, and now it's 50% of the time, and now it's 10% of the time because mom wants to be with her boyfriend or dad wants to be with his girlfriend, and the kids take on a secondary role.
Right. And you know my situation, I waited from June 14th of June of 2014 to New Year's Eve 2016 before even I hadn't been dating for most of that time, but on New Year's Eve is when my kids met my first girlfriend, right? So 2 years plus, right?
Yep.
And we still have had issues like that.
Right. Still blew up. Yeah, it gives an abandoned parent, not the child, but the abandoned parent, an opportunity to find a villain, to focus on something that is making them a victim, and it becomes a focal point. And we want to just keep that as much as we can in the background. And then keeping the role of this new partner secondary to the kids, keeping the focus on the kids.
Yeah. Kids
want to know that you're there. Kids want to know that they are more important than this new person, and that, you know, you've already left the other or been left by the other parent. And now they're sitting in this place of feeling secondary, feeling like they're not as important, that need for this other relationship is more important than the need for the relationship of this child. It creates a big chasm.
Yeah. It's a confusing world, I'd say that much. I mean, teenagers in general, when the kids get to that age, they tend to want to be with their friends and kind of pull away a little bit anyway, right? And my mom, I believe, did an amazing job not only raising us, but talking to me about parenting as sort of a long process of letting go and helping someone become actually independent of you. So I didn't fight that too much. You know, I've got a kid that in the teen years spent a lot more time with friends and not engaging and on devices and everything, right? And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, that's the one that's saying your new girlfriend took over our lives and you're never available. And I'm like, I was right downstairs. The rest of us were together and you were choosing not to be with us. How's that us, you know?
Yeah. And, you know, leaning back into our earlier conversations about, you know, connecting with the kids and having positive anticipation and really bringing them forward into that process is the process of parenting. And it's the process of letting them know that they're important and that the focus is on being there for them. And when we can do that, they don't get left in the dust. They are a participant in the components of being a family and you being a parent. And when that new partner is playing a secondary role in that, is like they're a participant. If we've come far enough down the line and they're a participant in that, that's great. But I'd like to see, it's like, short of being married, short of having, you know, a whole new contingent of parents keeping that new partner secondary to the times that they have with their children. You know, if they're going to spend time with a new partner, spend the predominance of that new time with them when the kids aren't around, on the other parent's parenting time, if it's possible, because that really allows you to have that focus on them.
Yeah. It's interesting because the parenting background, the teachings that I was raised on, certainly said the parents' relationship is first. You need to be in love. You need to be connected. You need to have date night. You need to model for the kids. And then the kids, in some ways, were secondary in a sense. Not that you let them starve and stuff, right? But after there's been a breakup and we're introducing a third party, a second relationship while you still have the kids, it's not quite as clean cut as that. The kid time does need to kind of come first while you're modeling, you know, what true love might look like or a healthy relationship.
Right. And the interesting part of that conversation, Charlie, is that there is a natural break point in it. There is a natural time for you to be able to have that time in many of these cases with that new partner without the kids. I mean, there's really, if you're married and you're doing this all the time, that's not available.
Right,
So
right.
if we're sharing 50-50 custody or something along every other weekend or those types of things, that time is suddenly available. And what's interesting for the new relationship, as we kind of grow toward having more time as a group, if that evolves in that direction, the solidifying of the new relationship with the new partner is able to happen because there's more time to be spent and there's less distraction to the relationship from the divorce or the separation, the fight with the ex, if that's going on, and the distraction to the relationship of the children.
Mm-hmm.
We're not giving the new parent a target to put on their back with our ex, because we can keep this in the background virtually forever. And I know for you, and part of your context and what's gone on for you, this has been the primary fight in part of your custody stuff.
If you'd told me when I started my divorce that someone else's divorce papers would be a part of my divorce, I would have went, the heck are you talking about, right?
Right.
And yet the opposing counsel has gone back to 5 years before I even knew my partner and dug paperwork out of their divorce. Say, look what a terrible person this is. And that's the thing, is we don't have to put a target on their back. The other side's going to do that naturally in this type of high conflict situation, right? So that's to be expected, right?
Right.
And this is another area, by the way, where you and I have talked a bunch on here about the normal divorce attorney is not really prepared for this, so we almost have to prepare them for what we want going into court, and they do work for us. We're paying the bill, right?
Right.
So it's like, I understand you've gone to school, I understand you're super smart, but like, I'm paying you. This is what I want from you today. Whether you think it's going to work or not, this is what I want from you. And this is another area where sort of prepping the attorneys going in saying, listen, we've got this major attack on my new partner, right? From 5 years ago. Here's how I'd like you to handle that. Like, Your Honor, this is 5 years ago. The person did something and cleaned it up, and this has nothing to do with this. Can we please move on from this, right? And sort of sweep it, get it out of the way, because, man, does these types of people like to create smoke and mirrors and distractions and just noise.
Right. And that stuff is irrelevant to a large extent. And my contention, again, in this first part of this is, if we're not introducing the kids to this new person, if we're not bringing them deeply into the relationship with a new partner, everything that we're talking about is irrelevant. There's nothing for the other parent to grab a hold of. There's nothing for them to fixate on. There's, who's your new partner? I want a name. Our kids are involved. Well, you don't need a name because our kids aren't involved.
Right.
And when that time comes, we can have that conversation. So there's a place here for nobody to get traction on.
Yeah.
One of the things that I see a lot of parents do, and it's problematic, is they'll either get into a new relationship prior to the breakup, or they'll get in a new relationship right after and go at it as if everything is normal. And it's not. And it's problematic for their own development. It's problematic for them to be able to sort through the things that got them there, the grief of the loss of the marriage, all of the normal things that have to be produced or processed. And if those things aren't processed, the probability of a redo in the new relationship is super high.
Yeah.
And there's another reason here that if we are going to have this relationship and we can keep it in the background, our kids aren't going to have to go through the breaking of another bonding experience again. So if they bond with this new partner that we've got, and we haven't worked out our stuff, or this relationship becomes entangled because of our old high conflict and it disappears, then we've done damage to our children again, and we've repeated the dysfunction in our own world. Right?
It's so scary. I mean, I remember I'm years into it now, right? But I remember listening to teachers, talking to you, talking to different people, like how long do you wait to introduce somebody? Just that idea that they fall in love with someone else and there's a breakup and the kids go through another loss is really scary.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, you and I talked about this a little bit. You know, my first divorce, I got into a new relationship pretty quickly. And I was in that relationship for 3 years. And it disappeared. You know, we came to an impasse, and it didn't break up in a nasty way, but it broke up. And a lot of that was because I hadn't completed the work that I needed to do to get beyond that. And it was kind of this space holder. But the fact that, you know, I didn't get married to her and I didn't do some of those things was great. But my daughter was introduced to her at an early point in it. And I know that my daughter took a hit because she looked at me and, you know, her experience is, wow, you know, where'd you go? And I wasn't as present for her as I could have been under those circumstances. So this is a really important piece to look at when we're doing this, and to be able to really focus on the time that we've got with our kids and utilize it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Relationships are an interesting world because the reality proves that a relationship doesn't last forever. That's not kind of the norm right now, marriage or connection or whatever. Whereas life certainly felt simpler when it was like, no, marriage is forever, right?
Well, each time we get married, we have that perspective, but it doesn't seem to work that way. You know?
It doesn't seem to work that way. And the other thing that's really important is we're supposed to be preparing children to live in the actual world that exists, not some make-believe, leave it to beaver world.
Mm-hmm.
And in the actual world that exists, I mean, there's some things that probably need to be rethought as we raise children and as we talk about what kind of world we're entering in or whatever relationships we're in. I mean, it's probably much healthier for children to hear and understand, hey guys, now is now, but next week is not guaranteed to be the same as now.
Right.
Now it's us and we have this person, or it's me and your mom, we're married, whatever the situation is. Just people die, people change, people break up. And the other side of this is the breakup does not mean the kids never get to talk to that step person again or whatever. They're
right.
Welcomed. I mean, I'm pretty confident. I don't have any signs that my girlfriend and I would break up, but I'm pretty confident she would totally be willing to stay in my kids' lives and be a mentor to them and a friend without me. And that's a testament to her character. She's not like, well, I love you and I'll tolerate these guys.
But that's about health.
Yeah.
And one of the things that we don't teach, our society today is so much more stressful than it was 50 years ago, 25 years ago. There's so much more demand on us professionally and relationally. And there's not a whole lot of data out there to help us create relationships that are healthy. I mean, we're in our day-to-day rat race, if you will, and we're not taking the time to really learn how to do relationship. And if we're not doing that personally, we can't teach that to our kids. Right. So part of what we're doing with this in our new relationships as we go along and we start to introduce these new partners, if we've done our work, if we have chosen well, we've got a healthy partner, then the kids get to see how relationships work. But where do we stop and talk to our kids about relationships? And that starts with our relationship with them. And if we don't have the time to do it, then we don't have time to relay that information to them. You know, how we talk to our kids is how we talk to everybody in our world. This is relationship creating if we're doing a good parenting job.
Yeah.
And that's the place that is so important to take the time and create that relationship that we may not have had with them before.
Yeah, I remember Ginger Gentile talking about why do they hand out condoms but not make people take classes on how to pick a good partner?
Right.
You literally are allowed to get married and bring kids into the world and be doing God knows what behind closed doors with no one checking. No classes, no nothing. There's a marriage license, right?
Right.
There's not even a birth license. And then, holy cow, when you get a divorce, they turn up the microscope. Finally, they're like, oh, now that it's too late, let's see what's going on here, right?
Yeah.
But she's got a point, kind of, right? Why not
Right.
have some training? But like, all of us can come up with ways we wish we could change the global state, country, world. And it's that if you could change that, or if you do, that's going to take a while. It takes a long time to turn the Titanic around, or whatever the saying is, right? But what can you do? You can be that class, you can be the education, you can be the example, as you're talking about. Like, who do I want my kids to marry? Talk to them like that, because kids, there's apparently, you can tell me if this is true, but apparently people go out and marry their mother or father, or sort of do some sort of repeat thing, or they feel this is home to me, even if the person was abusive.
Right. And it feels natural, and it's that, it's recapitulation, it's redoing it to overcome it. And it's really a bad strategy, but we all have a tendency to do it.
It reminds me of water. Like, water takes the path of least resistance, or sort of the downhill path, right? And you look at it, you can go to certain places and look at it and be like, well, that wouldn't be the best path to follow. Let's not follow the water. Let's cut over the mountain, whatever it is, right? But our psyche or whatever goes towards natural and easy and normal, so to speak, like what it feels like, even if that was not healthy.
Yeah.
So we do have an opportunity. Like, I have a significant opportunity to provide an example of what type of man my daughter might want to choose. And if I'm super unhealthy, then she may pick somebody unhealthy. And it's not like a guarantee, right? But parents have the most significant influence probably on kids until they surround themselves with friends in their teen years, probably.
Yep.
And then you have influence, like almost adult to adult. If you have to ask permission, right? I mean, you have your example, which they're watching. But when they're that age, you get to the point where you're kind of like, hey, are you open to feedback, or can I make a comment? Or ask to be let in a bit, right?
Are you talking about with the kids?
Yeah, I was saying, like, kind of the reality is at some point kids tend to replace their awe of you with like their peers. And go like, and then that becomes a major influence in their life. It doesn't mean we no longer provide an example or any training or anything, but we may need to not just be running at them with it, but ask permission. Can I make a comment?
Well, I think, from parenting, we always want to ask permission of our kids. Can I comment on that? Because that's relational. That is, I don't want to override you. I hear what you said. Are you open to something that I see here? And almost everybody, including our kids, will welcome us into that conversation.
Yep.
So if we do that when they're young, that becomes the pattern. And when they get older, it's, of course, what have you got to say? Because there's an inherent respect in that request, right?
That's what I was thinking. It's super kind and respectful to, I suppose it'd be like knocking on a screen door when someone's front door is open. You're like, well, I could get in. I can see it right there. You know what I mean? They're like, come over and get the cup of sugar you wanted or whatever. Like, I can see it on the counter,
Right.
But you're there and you go, because it's like, what would I want done to me?
Right.
I mean, who knows what they're up to at this moment? Like, it's just respectful. And so I like your comment. Like, do it at all ages, or just make that what you are as a parent.
Right. Because that's what we're creating as a respectful adult, right? If they, that's how they learn. That's their patterning.
Yeah. And that would actually create that comfort level with that. So if someone comes in and like just sort of judgmental, barging in with advice all the time as a potential partner, they might go, I don't like that. That might be a good red flag inside of them. Be like, this guy never even asked me if I want to hear what he says. It just goes, bleh, right?
So some of the problems that are created with new partners is a difference in respect to perspectives, priorities in relationships. And if we don't set those ground rules early, if we don't have agreements with our partners as to what the priorities are, we're back to boundaries, right?
Yeah.
We're going to be all over the countryside. And it takes a while with a new partner to put these pieces in place. So we have had conversations. The first part of a relationship is kind of all fun and oxytocin loaded and awe, and we're kind of running, we're having a ball here. And then we start to get a little more serious. We start to lean in, and then we've got kids. Now we've got to talk about the responsibilities and how we're going to do this and how we're going to detail these components of it. And that becomes super important. I've been in a relationship with my girlfriend for 7 years now, and my grandson was in it all of the time. And there were different components of the time that I spent with my grandson that my girlfriend set boundaries around how we were going to do that. She set boundaries around how we were going to spend our time with him. And she loves him, and she came into a really good relationship with him. But it was also this place of, this is our time, this is what we do, and this is how we're going to do it, and this is the priorities. And I was able to say to her, I gotcha, and some of our time is going to be inhibited because this boy is a priority, and I can't walk away from that priority. That has got to be where I'm going to be. So you can come in or you can stay out as you choose, but this is the time I'll be there.
Yeah.
So that was really helpful for our relationship to be able to grow and solidify. And it was also an opportunity for my grandson to see that he was a priority. That was the time. And then we also had these moments, these sometimes expansive periods of time where we were all together. But it wasn't this taking and jamming it in.
Yeah.
And this is what we're going to do. And it's something that happens so unconsciously with so many people. And if they've already done that, that doesn't mean that they can't back up. Backing up is a little harder. But if they understand the principles of what we're talking about and the problems that it causes, then they can start to reestablish new structure and new boundaries.
The boundaries are interesting because they always upset someone and put the ball in their court. Well, that's your stuff, right? Like Chick-fil-A is closed on Sundays, and I cannot tell you how many times I've driven there with my kids on a Sunday. Like, we're going to get some Chick-fil-A. And we're like, right? And it is upsetting. If you're trying to make a train and the doors close right in front of you, like they got to leave. They leave on time. Flights notoriously, you'll see somebody who's screaming at the people, let me on, you know what I mean? But they already shut the door, which is kind of I guess a big deal on an airplane. You don't like reopen it, whatever. Boundaries always upset somebody, but you can't live without them. Like, how could you possibly run a company, a business, a relationship without boundaries, which ironically, there are people that almost set no boundaries and just get trampled on and are like a I don't know what analogy to use, but they're a mess.
Our last marriages.
Yeah.
There's your analogy.
There it is. Hey, surprise. And, I keep bringing this in from the business world. It just seems to fit so well. They would tell us in my training I've taken as a business owner, they're like, you have to hire slowly and fire quickly. Nobody has ever regretted letting somebody go when they thought it was time. But man, every entrepreneur you talk to says there's this one person I didn't want to let them go because they've got kids, so I kept them on long. I mean, you always regret keeping someone too long, right? Mm-hmm. I would say the same thing, because what a pickle to be in. You can't introduce the kids to the new person too early because it might create another loss, but you want this person to be a big part of your life, and then you want to be in a relationship, but it literally can take years to find out some of the disqualifying characteristics of a person because you're not in every situation in the first month. Mm-hmm. And like, how does one do that? How do you even do relationship when it can take 2, 3, 4 years to find out that you're not right for each other? Fire quickly, like as soon as you know. Like, know what you're looking for, and as soon as you know, right, that this is not the one, end it.
Right. And as you're navigating even into that, just paying attention to where things aren't working and how your communication works. I mean, the communication between a new partner and yourself, and as you hit bumps in the road, is your major indicator if this is going to be a successful piece. Because if we can navigate discomfort and set boundaries and be respectful and have respectful conversation without blowing up and making people bad, but just being able to sit down and go, yeah, I hear that. Let me think about that. I'll come back. And going, no, that doesn't work for me. And having the person say, okay, that's not a deal breaker. We've still got room here. And, understanding what deal breakers are and, coming up against them and going, okay, is this where we part? And having those pieces as a part of navigating the new relationship is important.
Yeah, I had some of the paralyzation between the first marriage and the second marriage when I really wanted to be in a relationship. I had some of that paralyzation of how do you find your soulmate, and there's one person for everybody, and how do I go find them, and just that whole like needle in a haystack, horrible world. Yeah, Brook is shooting himself in the head for those of you that can't see the video. And man, I'll tell you, a teacher helped me so much. Basically said, here's your qualifications for who you can be with, right? Are they single? Okay. So you put all the single girls for me inside the circle. All of them would be fine, right? You can choose from any of them. And then, do you guys work through problems well together? Okay. And he's like, that's it. Like, there is no God's will and God's this and the one person you have to find. And if you don't, you marry somebody else, you not only screwed up your life, but the person you were supposed to marry is going to marry the wrong person. The butterfly. Oh my God, all this negativity, right? Mm-hmm. That was so helpful for me to go, well, hold on. I'm just picking a life. I like meet somebody and like, would it be more fun to journey together? You're fun. Like, this is interesting. But then you get to the problems. Mm-hmm. How do we do when we work through problems together? Right. And that's really where you see whether you could be together for a lifetime.
That's where the rubber meets the road for sure.
And or disagreements. Like, I think it should be this way. You think it should be this way.
Well, that comes into, this new partner problem as we're dealing with kids and we're dealing with an ex, is our new partner may not be on the same parenting style that we have. And we have to resolve that. We can't be in differences of parenting styles because that's going to blow us up. You're doing it wrong. You should be doing that. Rather than, remember what we learned about this situation? Let's try that. So bringing them in and having a similar philosophy on child rearing, because even though they're not going to have a major parenting role in this, they're going to have an opinion on how you're parenting. And if that isn't congruent with what they know or what they've learned or what their belief is, that's going to be an undertow that is going to drown everybody.
So here's some good first date conversation, right? Like, okay, what's your name? Where are you from? All that. Okay. How do you feel about the word should? And what do you think of right and wrong? All right.
Next.
You're out, man. You're out.
Next.
I mean, I can tell you like the unity that I have with my girlfriend right now hugely is not because we agree on everything. And I never thought that's what unity should mean. 7 billion clones, the exact same person 7 billion times on the earth. You know how boring that would be? Like, we have to have differences. The unity comes from humility. Going, I don't think you're wrong. We're seeing different things, but I don't think there's a should or a shouldn't or a right or a wrong. I just love you. And let's decide how we handle it while we're journeying, Right.
And then the perspective to the next component of that is it's not just about parenting style. It's about how do we deal with this crazy ex that's on the other side. And from the perspective of the new partner, how we deal with that is they step back. Mm. They take the target off of their back. They don't intercede with that, you should be doing it this way. They trust that you are knowing what you're doing and you're getting the right consult from professionals that can help you through this. Because if we are in this conversation of you're doing this wrong, if you guys haven't both taken some of the same trainings and understanding, the pathway through this, then you're going to be at a battle of, why are you talking to him? He's only abusive. He's causing these problems, blah, blah, blah. And you are sitting there in this place of disengage. And they're going, no, you got to fight back. And you're going, no, I don't. This is not how we do this.
And isn't that a fair boundary? Isn't that a fair boundary to tell your partner, you're either in the classes with me having discussion, or you're saying nothing?
Well, I think that that's a really good process. And what I do for couples, when I'm dealing with couples, they're new partnerships, is this: if they want to bring their partner in or their wife in or their husband in, they get a 50% discount on that class, because I want everybody on the same page if they can be.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Interesting. Because it's like me commenting on brain surgery. I got nothing to say. You know what I mean? Like, I haven't taken any of the training. And if I did take the training, I haven't kept up with the new stuff, right? So I just have no place in that. So I think that's a good place for boundaries, is like, hey, buddy, I love you. I want your comments, normally want your feedback, but that's only on areas that you're studying and actively up on.
Right.
And so, like, this is not one of those.
Yeah, you got a brain tumor, go see a brain surgeon.
Right.
Don't talk to a dentist about a brain tumor.
Yeah, another good first date conversation. Do you believe that people are always doing their best? I mean, do you tend to look at people and say they're doing their best, or do you tend to judge them and go, they could have done it better, so I'm going to get all bent out of shape and mad and have a bunch of shoulds and shouldn'ts? And what does that teacher say? Go should all over them, or stop shitting all over yourself, right?
All right.
Crazy.
So the next piece that I want to bring into the conversation is, again, knowing when to include and when to exclude the children from that relationship. It's like, there's places here that they're going to be in, and there's places that they're going to be out, and to really have those boundaries and how we're going to spend our time, how we're going to do this together, and how we're going to do this apart. We talked about that a little bit just earlier.
Yep.
One of the other pieces that that new partners get caught in is triangulation between the parent, the child, the new partner, the parent, the child, and the other with their exes. And we've got to keep the communication direct between the biological parents, and the conversation direct between the parent and the child. These are all linear relationships. They don't get triangulated. The kids will try to work everybody against everybody else. So dad and child has a relationship. Dad and new partner has a relationship. New partner and the kids have a new relationship. Dad and the ex have a linear relationship. There's never a triangulation that's going along with it. It's always direct relationships, because when we start to triangulate, things get screwy.
Okay. Yeah, got it.
Okay. So just kind of success and solutions, and we'll kind of wind up here, and it's just what we're going to talk about, what we talked about, or what we're talking about, and then what we talked about. So we're in the what we talked about stage of this one. So success and solutions. One, relationships are tricky. They just are, by their very nature, period. Yep. So the success requires understanding priorities. Children's needs are first, scheduled time and genuine expectation opportunities, those positive anticipation events that we bring in for relationship building and parenting.
Yep.
Boundaries, communication styles, who and how communication takes place. So we just talked a little bit about that triangulation and the one-on-one and the straight pieces. Here's one that we didn't talk about that is a solution and a definite need if we're going to have success, is relationship counseling. Can't do this alone, guys. I mean, you can't successfully do this alone. Everybody that I know that has a successful relationship at some point goes in and out of relationship counseling. They start to get to understand the components, the structure, the respect, and how to self-regulate. And that is something that for literally everybody does not happen without help.
Somebody needs to do a research project on like 100 different skills and send somebody out without a coach and with a coach and just measure the results and go,
That'd be great.
why would life be any different? Or why would something as difficult as, like, I would think playing professional golf or football is difficult and they get coaches, but not as difficult as navigating a relationship with another free-willed individual, trying to blend two independent people. Why would you try that without a coach?
Yep. Yeah. Scheduled time. This is our time. This is their time. This is our structure. Education on conflicted custody battles. Everybody's got to know how this stuff works. You guys that are listening to this are already reaching out to try to understand how and why these conflicts are taking place. And the more you understand, the better job you're going to do. Not forcing the new partner on the children. Mm-hmm. Allow for organic relationship growth. That's how relationships happen anyway. You have to love this person. I love them. No, I don't.
Right.
I don't have to love anybody I don't love. And I can find respect if there's respect. And that is something that is not forcible. It is organic. So we have to let that evolve.
It will grow. Like, I met my girlfriend and chose to love her children because love can be a choice. You know what I mean? I was there for them and I put them first. And I can say today that I love them. Like, I can't help it. Like, I love them. They're a huge part of my family and I want to do good to them and serve them. And we're just a family. Like, who's going to take care of what? Oh, somebody needs to get run over here. Oh, this person forgot a bag, whatever. I love them. It's not a choice anymore. It's my reality.
Yep.
Organically though, it happened over time.
Right. It doesn't happen overnight. You have to call them mom. You have to call them dad. We have to be a family. We have to. There's no forcing. There's no forcing there. And then good time management, self-care, and time alone. How many of you don't take time for yourselves and take care of yourself in what you need in your life? If we are always other directed, if we're always dumping all of our time into a new partner, our kids, our job, our divorce or custody battle, where are we? All of this just becomes a distraction and we get lost and we don't have the opportunity to evolve. We have to take time alone. We have to take weekends alone. We have to take vacations alone. We have to hang out with buddies of our same sex and not be wrapped up in this one single pointed or this two pointed part of our lives. And when we're doing that, we've created a whole system that becomes functional.
I've got a tip, and some people are going to jump up and down. They're going to be so excited about it. But you know how kind of like hair salon, like when you're learning to be a hairdresser, you have to get a lot of practice. So those schools kind of have really inexpensive haircuts if you're willing to let a student kind of cut your hair. People may or may not know, I went to massage school and learned that massage schools do the same thing. So to this day, I still buy from my local massage school because I've found them to be very good. I still buy 2 1-hour massages at a time for $45. So that's $22.50 an hour. Which at that type of a rate, you could literally afford to have a massage every single week, and you're not even coming close to the cost of like health insurance, right? It's like, what is that, 2 or 3 drinks if you went out, $22.50. So some people may want to choose, if they did not know that was a reality in the world, is to call up a couple of local massage schools and have a time every week where you don't just disengage the way we're talking about it. But you really put your face in the little bowl and completely tune out and let your emotions and your body kind of be worked on. The blood gets flowing, all that. It'd be a really nice self-care technique if somebody didn't know that existed.
So, Charlie, I've known you a couple of years now.
Yeah, and I haven't given you that tip. You're mad at me or what?
No, I didn't know that you had gone to school for bodywork.
Oh, yeah. I went to school to be a certified natural health professional, CNHP, the ND, naturopathic doctor. I was doing that all for a while in my early 20s. wanted to be an herbologist, reflexology, iridology, all of it. And the pieces that still remain today, because, I do some speaking in the stem cell treatment world, and the massage. I mean, I actually told a story. We'll wrap up here, but I told a story while speaking the other day of this woman who really looked like she was 47, 48. And the massage therapist says to her, she's like, "What is your secret? Like, how old are you?" And the lady said, "I'm 69. She goes, "What is your secret? Do you eat really well? Like, only eat leafy green vegetables?" Or she goes, "No, I don't really exercise or pay attention to my eating, but I've gotten a massage every single day or every week for 40 years.
Nice.
And if you understand the elimination of toxins and the promotion of blood flow and what circulation, which is really the irrigation in your body, capillaries and blood, you realize that kind of helps everything, right?"
It does. It does.
So I kind of try to live, I don't always accomplish it, but I try to live as a baseline, like massage every week and then clean water and organic foods. Like, let's just start there and see what diseases can fight through that.
Nice. Nice.
But that's part of self-care, right? Like, I mean,
time alone.
Yes.
Self-care.
If there's a certain condition in your life, whether it be a social setup or a time of the month or whatever, if there's a time in your life that's harder than other times, you can go, well, that's like physical and chemical and whatever. That's a good example of not taking care of yourself. What not taking care of yourself could be is you can feel like that all the time. Or if you add taking care of yourself or self-care, a lot of that can be taken down, right?
Cool.
This is hard enough without any of that other craziness, so get healthy.
All right.
Other than that, I don't have any strong opinions on the subject, Brooke.
Well, thanks, Charlie, for taking the time again today and having these conversations. I continue to enjoy them, and they continue to help people out there. So let's wrap this one up and get set up for another one here.
Yeah, thank you, everybody, for listening. I actually had a listener reach out to me the other day that has heard all of our podcasts, Brooke, and then crossed over and heard some of my renovating retirement stuff and, basically said, "Hey, I'm starting over. I need to have some money conversations after basically losing everything." Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I cannot even tell you how encouraging it is to hear what people feel about the show and how often they're listening and repeating episodes. And it just is, it's out there doing incredible things. So thank you, everybody, from the bottom of our hearts for listening. This is Brooke Olson and Charlie Jewett from the High Conflict Co-Parenting Podcast signing off. Episode 62. We will see you guys next week.
Thanks, Charlie.
Brooke, people don't have to wait until Friday mornings to get more content. If this is something that's helpful for them, right? This isn't the first time you've broadcast anything or recorded anything or put anything out there in the world. What are the other ways people can get the help more aggressively or speed up their recovery process? What materials are available for people right now?
Well, I've written a book called The Black Hole of High Conflict, and it's available on Amazon and Kindle.
Great.
And everything that we're talking about is really compressed and put into there. So this is a really good starter place to get in and get your mind working and to see what these concepts are about and how to start to apply them. The other place that I think that is valuable is to go to our website and look at some of the blog articles that I've written. Those are available there as well. They go into some of these other arenas, and that's at www.highconflict.net. So the book, the website are also really good places to get the material. And also we have classes. We have high conflict diversion program classes that you can get into and get some one-on-one help with this as well.
And you know me, I'm aggressive. Whatever I want to become good at or learn, I find someone who's good at it and pay them and hire them and shorten my learning curve. What if somebody just wants your help? Somebody says, Brooke has this information. He's good at something I'm not good at yet, and I want to work with him. Do you have any type of coaching or consultations or anything like that?
Absolutely, I do. I do one-on-one coaching for custody cases. I help people get ready for family court services. If you've got that in your community, I work with attorneys and clients to help them with managing and strategically setting them up to have more successful cases as well.
And how do they reach out? You want them to just go to the website or email or phone, or what's the best way for them to reach out, raise their hand, and say, I need some help?
They can email me. My direct email is Brooke at highconflict.net. That's BROOK at highconflict, HIGH, conflict.net.
Perfect. That's everything everybody would need to get some help, right?
Absolutely.
Thank you, Brooke.